Welcome to the Crystal Beauty Show. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Crystal Beauty Show. Today with me I have the House of Good and Evil writer and producer, Mr. Blu de Golyer. Today he's going to be talking about the movie House of Good and Evil, so you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
Well, I give you Cunley Manor.
Why are there two addresses?
Duplex.
We'll tear that wall down first thing.
There's a fire out in Harmony Ridge. I'll be gone for a few days.
They're all monsters, Maggie. The only difference is they're in your bed instead of under it. I have a vision that I'd like to play with.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're the producer of the House of Good and Evil, and you actually you wrote the script as well, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So tell us, how was that process for you writing the script and producing this movie?
Well, if you got 10 years to put aside, that's about what it is. 10 years of your life, but it's actually coming together. We went to a lot of different directors. Tippi Hedren, who was in the movie The Birds,
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock's movie, she was attached to it for 5 years. Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard, was also attached to direct the film. And then finally, my wife says, let's just get this movie done. I'm sick of hearing about it. So we put our money into it and got it done. And, fortunately, we've made our money back. It's won 8 Best Picture awards internationally. And, critics like it. It's not for everybody. It's more of a psychological thriller,
Mm-hmm.
and a thinking movie, So that's, but yeah, it took 10 years to get to this point. And like all good things, you have to wait, I suppose.
Yeah. So how was the production process and the casting process for this movie?
Well, we did auditions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only 7 parts in the whole film. There's only 7 roles. But the lead girl we had cast, Tippi Hedren was cast as Mrs. Anderson. But 3 days before we were supposed to film her scene, Tippi Hedren got sick. I mean, she did this, the press junket is, where you go around and talk about a film. But there's a movie called, I believe it was called The Girl, that was about Alfred Hitchcock's relationship with Tippi Hedren. And this woman's 80, she was 82 at the time. She was running around the world, doing all this press for this film. So by the time it was our turn, she was exhausted, So 3 days beforehand, she got sick and ended up in the hospital. Very minor, but still, you don't want to push somebody.
Yeah.
So we had to respect that. So I had to frantically figure Plan B out, and Plan B was Marietta Merritt, who was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. She was in Rushmore, and she was also in her early 80s, and she had 3 days to get to set and learn the role and everything, and she did it. classic old school actors. She had all the notes written down, and she's very hard of hearing.
Yeah.
So was the only real challenge is, the actors having to scream almost at her, but she remembered her lines, and she was amazing in it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So, can you give us a summary of what this movie is actually about? What should we be expecting to see in it?
It's a love story. It's a tragic love story. You have two people who are in love. They live in the city, and the husband's an alcoholic, and they get into an argument. The wife is pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and they get into an argument, and they lose the baby. Basically, it was an accident, but that nothing. You can't heal that womb. And it's something to where they figure if they get away from their problems in the city, they go to the country and the problems will suddenly go away.
Yeah.
But what happens is you have these two people who, because it's stressful living in the city, and that was always their stress. So they moved to this house out in the country to rekindle their marriage, and just old wounds boil up, and because there was no completion it's about forgiveness too, and sometimes it's not easy to forgive people for certain things, and it ends in tragedy, but it is a tragic love story. Two people that are in love that aren't supposed to be together.
Okay. What kind of responses have you been getting from the audience so far?
Well, responses. This movie's not for. There's two kinds of people that watch.
Yeah.
There's people it's for your I'd say late 20s, mid 30s, and up kind of person.
Okay.
Because it deals with miscarriage, a woman miscarrying a child. That's a heavy thing. The first 3 minutes of the film, that's a heavy, and then it's marriage dynamics. So a teenage kid that thinking, oh, this is a good gory horror movie, that's not. He's going to be disappointed because it's not that. It's more of a psychological, very dark, kind of like the movies of the 70s, like The Shining. That kind of pacing, that kind of film, really. It's the story. It focuses on the story, and not so much the gore aspect of it. Because you can tell a story, a very frightening story, and have very little blood. It's more about that story, and not everybody can relate to a woman's issues, or even a married couple's issues. You can't always relate to that. So that's the kind of demographic that the film's made for. So that demographic, they love the film, but the teenage kids, they don't. So and they're the ones sitting at their computer and trying to in their mom's basement playing video games. This isn't for them. This is for your mommy and daddy. So that's pretty much sums it up. It's for smarter people.
Okay.
Young men haven't developed their brains yet, so it's not for them.
All right. So since most of our audiences are actually African, this is a question I ask every producer that comes on the show is, would you be interested in producing an African movie sometime in the future? Is that something you'd like to look into?
Well, you check out my resume. There's a movie called Wamba.
Okay.
There's I was involved with that movie, and it was a great movie that deals with the AIDS epidemic in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been involved with an African movies filmed in Africa, in African movies. So I think there's so much raw talent in Africa alone, and I think it's here's my sadness with Africa is I think that it's one of those places where, when people in Europe were still living in caves, people in Africa had mapped out the stars. And the minute Europeans came and colonized it, they thought they were bringing civilization, but what they were really taking is culture away. And I think that's one of the things where it's been throughout history, even now, it's been... there's been more taken out of Africa than given to Africa. And I think that's a story that really needs to be told. Because I think African Americans, and I don't want to. That's a hard thing to say, African American.
Yeah.
It is because half the people in this country don't even have passports, so they don't necessarily. I don't want to speak for anybody other than myself, but I see it every day, and I think if there was more people of color that understood their heritage, where they're from, I think things would be a lot different in this country.
Yeah, very true. All right.
It'd
So,
be a difference between the people of color here and in Africa, and I've seen it firsthand, and it's a shame because it's such a rich culture.
I know. You always wanted to be a producer, or did you just
No,
come? No.
no, no, no. Um, by default, by trade, I'm a writer. Actually, I've written 42 screenplays. I've written half of which as a ghostwriter
Mm-hmm.
for some rather big writers in the industry. So it's only now, as a producer, I get to keep credit for my
Yeah.
work. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like you do something that you enjoy, and you don't get to. You get a nice paycheck, but you don't get to. That's half of it.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to survive on what you or live off of what you do. That's nice, but it's also nice to be able to say, "Hey, I had a piece of that. I worked on that film, and now I can do that." And yeah, so I think it's good. Good experience.
Nice. So, how can our viewers view this movie? Where can they get a copy?
It's going to be in Walmart
Mm-hmm.
in June 3rd. It's in Family Video. All Walmarts it's going to be in.
Okay,
You'll be
great.
able to find it there. But also you can go to Vimeo on demand. If you go to our Facebook page, House of Good and Evil Film, Facebook / House of Good and Evil Film, it has all the listings. It's on VOD. Your video on
Mm-hmm.
demand. Just got to check your local listings. It's on Hulu, iTunes. I
Great.
mean, you can find this movie anywhere, and if you don't, well you're not looking hard enough because it's out there. But
All
you can
right.
find it at Walmart. Yeah.
So, do you have any advice for those who are watching this right now who want to become producers or writers like yourself?
Just do it. The most important thing, advice I can ever give anybody is just do it. Because you won't know until you do it. And that's not just with filmmaking. That's with anything in life. The
Mm-hmm.
only person stopping you is you. I mean, there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. They put a man on the moon. If they could do that, you can make a movie. You
Yeah.
know, it ain't that difficult. Just get your community behind you, and that's the most important thing. Is network. Utilize your friends, even if it means annoying them until they say, "I'll help you." Finally, but it took me 10 years to do this film, and it was 10 years of 10 years of no's to
Mm-hmm.
get one yes. And just remember that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving
Thanks for
us your
having me.
time.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you guys so much for watching. As usual, leave your comments. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. And until next time, this is Crystal saying bye bye.